got some coffee, and I was actually doing an interview, and I was getting the jitters before, and I've never had the jitters in my life, and it is a really weird feeling. You're like my hands were kind of like shaking, and I didn't know what was going on at first, because again, it's never happened to me before. And I was like, this feels really weird. Like, I don't know. It's like, am I okay? Yeah. And then I realized, I was like, oh wait, I haven't eaten, and I had like a humongous coffee. And that was, anyway, I figured it out, but it was super weird. And now I know what everyone's talking about when they're like, yeah, the jitters. It's like, wow, I've had the jitters now, and it's a really unpleasant sensation.
About, what was it? It was like 2 weeks ago. I go to the gym pretty much usually 5 or 6 times a week, and I take a pre-workout, and I didn't know the gym closed at 7 on Saturdays. I took my pre-workout, and I drive up to the gym at like 6:45, and it's closing at 7. I was like, oh no. Those pre-workouts are they get you going. And I was just there, and I had to do something. I tried to come home and just sit down, but I had the jitters so big time. My heart rate was up. My hands were going. I ended up running like 4 miles around the block.
Wow.
It was too much. But I've been there. I feel you.
It's weird, man. So without further ado, let's dive in. I want to first give you some recognition. It's something that it's kind of a new initiative here at Elite Marketing Pro, and you have reached our heavy hitter level. And I wrote down the income. This was in a span between 2014 and 2015. You earned $29,515.49 to be exact with Elite Marketing Pro. Important to point out that Elite Marketing Pro is just one of many of your income streams, and by the age of 24, you've already hit a 6-figure income, and you're, as I've said before, you're kind of living the life, man. I mean, you've got like 6 figures going on. You're living in Maui, and you've generated a pretty substantial list of over 25,000 prospects. So that's awesome, man. So congrats to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
Yeah. So yeah, that's fantastic. What I would like to do in this conversation is kind of talk, and actually, even to preface this conversation a little bit more, you just did a fantastic series for us in What's Working Now, starting with your primary traffic strategy, which was last month, and then just last week, you shared with us some conversion and follow-up tips, which 2 like amazing presentations. So for those folks listening to us, if you're a member of Elite Marketing Pro, a member of What's Working Now, I would definitely recommend checking out those presentations. Really, really awesome and very actionable material. And I really want to touch on, because this traffic is something that people struggle with. I mean, traffic is that's kind of when you first get started, you're faced with so many options. Yeah. And you kind of have to choose. And one thing that you did so well is you picked a traffic strategy, and you really focused on that traffic strategy. And I mean, literally from day one until now, you're still primarily, if I understand correctly, primarily using the same traffic strategy. And you saw some results really early on, which is super cool. And you've just continued to refine your process and just expand and reinvest, and that's of course what we encourage folks to do. But it can be challenging when you're first starting to really pick something and run with it. So I wonder if you can share a little bit about where you were, what you were doing prior to Elite Marketing Pro, and then kind of how things developed and evolved for you, and how you just kind of that whole process of how you selected your traffic strategy, and then you had the wisdom to stick with it and turn it into some really cool results.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what I would say is, for Elite Marketing Pro, I was on the internet. I'd gone through a couple little courses. I'd gone through Russell Brunson's .com Secrets X course, and it taught you how to set up a capture page and how to build your own list and how to select self-liquidating offers and ClickBank, ClickSure, etc., the CPA networks. And I was taking action. I was going out and I was actually using solo ads at that point. I was generating traffic. I was generating leads, but I couldn't see a positive return on investment to save my life. And I think this actually is a good lesson in general, because what you start to realize the more you're in the game is that traffic really isn't the problem. It's the conversion mechanisms that you have in place. Go ahead and convert that traffic and make that traffic profitable when you pay for it. And once you figure that out, It's really easy to get a lot of traffic. And that's what Elite Marketing Pro did for me. I was in a spot where I had figured out how to generate leads. I'd figured out how to drive traffic. And I had used solo ads just because that's what Russell went ahead and said to use. And another one of my mentors, Dagan Smith, was really into solo ads. So it seemed to make sense. They're really simple and very easy to apply and very easy to take action on. So I kind of didn't question whether it was the right method to use as much as I got in the game and started using them. But I was frustrated at the fact that I wasn't very profitable with them, right? And when Elite Marketing Pro came around, when I saw the offer for Elite Marketing Pro, I got started at, I believe, the plus level at first, which was like it was just another level that you guys had back before you initially launched VIP. And it allowed me to earn 100% commissions on the front end, residuals, I think 75% commissions on the plus level membership, etc. And it gave me a lot more leverage with the traffic I was already working with in order to turn that traffic into profits for my business. So I had already kind of dabbled with solo ads. I had made a few sales here and there, but not ever profitably. And when Elite Marketing Pro came around, I went ahead and applied the information I knew when it came to solo ads, started using Elite Marketing Pro, and had almost instant profitability, like you talked about, with literally my first ad. So it was really just about finding the right offer for that traffic and figuring out how to be profitable with that source of traffic.
Yeah, that's awesome. And of course, you mentioned, having, of course, the the higher level of commission and profitability throughout your funnel is crucial. What would you say, for someone? It's really cool that it's like you had mentors that you chose to follow, and those mentors had a traffic strategy that, like you said, you kind of didn't question. You just went for it, which is super cool. It's probably it's a great position essentially to be in versus almost being presented with like a buffet, and it's like, well, we'll pick something. That's a struggle I've seen a lot of times speaking with folks is there's so many different things, and it's really hard for them to kind of choose and get some traction. What would you say to someone in that position? Not necessarily, because there are so many options out there, and I kind of wonder, what sort of words of wisdom you might have for someone that's new and they're faced with all these options to just kind of, pick something and essentially run with it. And as you mentioned, you had kind of been, maybe not always as profitable with this traffic source until you really dialed in what you were doing with, your follow-up and conversion and everything. So kind of, what would you say, to someone that's brand new, to kind of talk them through this process of kind of making that decision and starting to get some results?
Yeah. Well, I'm personally a believer that there's not one right strategy to go ahead and implement. It kind of depends on your personality type, what resonates with you, just what you're comfortable with. I mean, Tyson in Elite Marketing Pro is a perfect example of someone who's done really well with YouTube. Kate and Andrew McShay, the same thing, really well with YouTube. And I think no matter what the traffic source is, you can always find someone who does really well with that traffic source. So it really comes down to dialing into kind of who you are, what your personality type is, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, etc., and then making adjustments based on that. When I was getting started, I had no confidence in front of the camera. I had never done any levels of public speaking. I had never done, any videos. I was starting to do videos. You probably remember some of my old videos. They're terrible, but it's kind of the process, and I didn't have any confidence there, so YouTube wasn't really an option. I'm not really the type that likes to get super analytical. I will when I have to, but I'm not really the type that likes to sit in the back office of the power editor in Facebook and really look at stats and just kind of spend a lot of time on the numbers, etc. And when I kind of looked at all the various methods of traffic generation, solo ads were one that really stood out as being simple to me, really stood out as being something that I could go ahead and take action on really quickly, which I think is really important. The course I was going through at the time, you're supposed to take action before going on to the next lesson. So it just kind of got me in the mode of taking action. But for the general person just getting started, I would say you have to go ahead and kind of look at yourself and look at your strengths and look at your weaknesses and make a decision based on that. And then you also need to try different things. I've tried Facebook, I've tried YouTube. I like YouTube now. I like videos now. I still love solo ads because they work really well for me. I use CPA marketing with my marketing now. So you have to try different things in order to figure out what really works for you. But I think the fastest path to doing well with the traffic source is kind of knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and then kind of choosing your traffic method really based on those strengths and weaknesses. So
absolutely. That's a great answer. And I wonder too, you know, because you mentioned not being comfortable with video when you first started out, and, you know, having known you for a few years now, I've really watched you become much more comfortable on video. I've watched you really cultivate your voice when it comes to writing. And that's kind of something, I mean, that's sort of a part of the process of, you know, just kind of developing as a leader. Do you have any advice or thoughts for, again, someone that's new? And again, your presentation actually last week, I thoroughly enjoyed. You know, you were talking a lot about the different kinds of personas and voices, and what kind of styles you can have with writing, what kind of positions you can come from that, again, probably, you know, are a better fit for your personality, you know, depending on your history and what kind of industry maybe you're coming from. What would you, any just kind of tips for someone, you know, that they're brand new, maybe they are a little shy in front of the camera? Essentially, part of this business, if you want to do attraction marketing, is you do need to create some content. You need to kind of put yourself out there as a leader. So what kind of words of encouragement would you give to someone who's, you know, they're new and they're kind of thinking about this stuff? And it's been really awesome to see, you know, your development. I thoroughly enjoy watching your videos and reading your emails now. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you, first of all. I would say, man, you can't give yourself another option. You have to be willing to get in the game. You have to be willing to take action. You have to know that it's going to be terrible at first, and you have to be all right with still taking action based on knowing that it's terrible, knowing that it's not going to be pretty at first. When I first got started with videos, I was 22. I was still living with my dad, and I had this little room, and I went out and bought a whiteboard, and I bought the lights. So I went out and got the whole like studio set up, and I told my dad, I was like, God, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be terrible. And I remember it was like October, and I was like, I wonder if I do a video every day, what it'll be like by the end of December. And that's just kind of that's the angle I took when it came to shooting videos. And I was just kind of curious about what would happen and what my skills would evolve into if I just did a video every day. Now, I ended up not being that consistent on videos, and the progression of getting comfortable in front of the camera definitely wasn't that quick. It didn't happen in a 2-month period. But once you start taking action, once you start writing emails, once you start creating blog posts, once you start hosting webinars, you realize that it's really not that hard, and you realize that it's just kind of right outside of your comfort zone, and that's why you're thinking it's hard. For me, I didn't have an option. I didn't have a second, really, I didn't have a fallback. I had just kind of lost a college scholarship. I had some health issues, which led to me losing a college scholarship, and I didn't know where my life was going. And I had learned about the internet. I had learned about internet marketing, and I knew I always wanted to do well for myself, and I really kind of looked at it as the only path to take. And so I didn't give myself a fallback, and I just kind of made myself do the uncomfortable. And once you make yourself do the uncomfortable, you realize that it's not that bad. You realize that it's just kind of outside of your comfort zone, and right when you do it, it becomes really kind of second nature. And with practice and a little bit of persistence, you can get through it. So you got to start. You got to know it's not going to be pretty at first. There's probably going to be a period of time at the beginning that's not pretty, and that your emails aren't good, and people unsubscribe, and people, you know, maybe give you negative feedback, etc. But it's just part of the journey. And you take action for long enough, your skills will come, and study hard enough, and seek out the information that you need in order to learn certain skill sets. Everything will fall into place once you're taking action.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, I think we can probably all remember, you know, some of either the first copy that we'd ever written, or maybe the first webinar, or the first video ever recorded. And, you know, I can think back, and it's just like, it's cringeworthy. You know, it's painful. And I'm sure on the same token that, you know, 5 years from now, I'll look back at what I'm doing now, and it will probably seem very immature to me. You know, and you know, and part of the process, as you mentioned, is, you know, it can be tough when you're critical of yourself. It can be tough when you you kind of know how to recognize something that's good, right? When you have, like, you know, decent taste when it comes to copy, but you know you're not quite at the level to produce that. But it really just is about doing it, as you mentioned. And so yeah, it's just one of those things you have to get that ball rolling, and then you'll be surprised at sometimes how quickly you can improve those skills. And on that note, I'm curious to know, so what's next? As you kind of look towards, we're not quite. I mean, we're past the halfway point of this year. There's still a little 2015 left, but what's next? What are some of the next hurdles and challenges that you're really looking forward to tackling?
Yeah. So, firstly, to circle back a little bit, one thing I'll say is one thing that's really fun about the internet is that you can find pretty much anything that's ever been on the internet at any point in time. So there's this little tool called the Wayback Machine. You can probably Google just the Wayback Machine. You can literally go on there and type in any website and find what it looked like back in 2007, 2008, 2009, etc. So one of the exercises that I used to always do when I was in that state of just not feeling like I was at the level that I wanted to be at yet, of course, you're kind of always in that state as you continue to grow. But you can kind of look back at where the leaders that are today, or where the leaders were 4, 5, 6 years ago. And you realize that it's a process that everybody's gone through. You can go and type in any of the gurus in the space and see what their websites looked like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And then you just have to realize that the only way for you to bridge the gap and go from where you are to where you want to be is to get in the game, start, and realize that everybody else has done that in some point in time. So that's what's kind of fun about the internet. You can really see the process and take the time to really think the process. Moving on, I just got my sales funnel completely up, ready, taking orders. I made my first couple sales of my own product actually just yesterday for my first email I sent to my list. So I was pretty happy about that. The funnel with front end, an upsell, and then payment plans, and another downsell. So I'm really trying to focus on starting to create more of my own offers, creating more of my own products, creating more of my own sales funnels. Of course, also promoting Elite Marketing Pro a little bit harder. I feel like I owe it to the Elite Marketing Pro guys to promote it a little bit harder. I have a webinar I just went ahead and crafted for Elite Marketing Pro that I'm going to be doing next week. Like you said, I've actually been promoting 3 different things over the last year. So really my goal moving forward from now on to focus on creating more myself. So focus on building my own business versus building someone else's business more, creating more of my own sales funnels, my own products, my own kind of tribe, etc., and bridging the gap from maybe being the affiliate to being the person who has affiliates. That's my goal long term. But yeah, right now, getting the sales funnel up, I've got that. I'm taking orders. Now it's just about testing, tweaking, optimizing it, running cold traffic to it, seeing what the numbers are then, and really moving forward, trying to go in that direction a little bit more for sure.
Awesome, man. That's fantastic. Well, I do want to give you again recognition for hitting our heavy hitter level here at Elite Marketing Pro. And I think you actually had your award somewhere there on your desk.
Yeah, dude. There it is. Here, I can put box behind it.
Oh, hey.
There you go.
Nice. That works. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So again, congratulations, sir, and thank you for taking a minute to have a chat with us and talk about what you got going on. And again, for everyone, I'd very much recommend check out the 2 presentations that Misha just did in the What's Working Now training library. You'll learn a lot more about his preferred traffic strategy and get some really cool tips on conversion and follow-up, which is really how you take that traffic and turn it into profitability. And you can just do incredible. I mean, you can just exponentially increase your results if your follow-up mechanisms and everything you've got going on conversion-wise is really optimized. So thank you again, sir, and congratulations again on the hitting the heavy hitter level. And we appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you. Anytime, Andrew. I always love hanging out.
Awesome, man.
Cool.